Let's see if we can find it.
It takes a few seconds to come up.
I think so. Good morning, everybody. Well, we're back. I hope you enjoyed the meditation, and if you missed it, you can find it on our Facebook page. Today we're practicing being present, and that's part of the theme of what we're doing this week. And as we go forward, there we go. I found us, so I can pull it up. Oh, but I gotta turn the sound down. Yeah, that's not good. All right. So how are you today? Happy Sunday. I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad you're here. We're just going to get up and running here and let a bunch of people jump on. I want to take a minute to start with gratitude today and send warm wishes of gratitude and love to Tina Foltz, who is hosting our service online for us from afar. We wish you were here, Tina, but we're so glad that you're such a presence for us, and thank you so much for hosting the service so well. So everyone say good morning to Tina too. And we've got John with us today. Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Back again.
Another Sunday, another living room session.
Another living room session. CSLTV Unplugged. Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sort of unplugged. I mean, we're still pretty electronic, but, you know, stripped. That's not a good word
That's
for
not a
Sunday
good
morning.
word for church.
Well, at least you can tell it's not scripted, right?
Oh, that's a funny one. Okay, so, you ready to get going?
Sure.
I think we'll
On the
start.
heels of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so glad you're with us, everybody, and we're ready to come back together in community online and let the morning unfold. So John's going to start us off with our centering song.
In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release. From a world filled with chaos and noise, I awake to these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God, I find myself.
And so, yes, in the silence, there's peace. As we turn our attention within and allow ourselves to connect to that safe, sacred space within, I remember the infinite divine source of all life is the power and the presence of God. That spirit moves and breathes itself into being as all things everywhere. There truly is no spot where God is not, for God is ever present in its power, in its presence, and in that force of love that it is. And it's true at the center of each and every one of us, God is alive, that divine spark revealing itself, energizing and animating each and every one of us, for we are living the divine life. And as such, we are never alone, for we are ever supported and connected to that powerful presence that loves us so. It It loves us so much that it brought us into being. And so I know that as we come together in consciousness through this gift of technology on this day, I know that that truth of our being reveals itself, that we are connected at the source, for there is truly only one. And I know that this service, this experience unfolds with love, with light, with joy, reminding us of the power, the presence, and the sweetness of spiritual community. For even though we are not together in body, we are together in heart and in mind. And in that we are served, supported, and loved. And so I bless this day, this gift, this beautiful spring day, and know that this time unfolds in the power and the presence and the love of the one. And with a grateful heart I allow it to be, and so it is. Amen.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's chanting time.
Yes, it's chanting time.
So this is one that we, I don't know that we've ever done it on a Sunday morning. We may have, but it would not have been more than once probably. But it's sung by our good friend Karl Anthony, who we sure miss seeing, that's for sure. Which means that it's normally a call and response. So should you choose to sing, from home, from your living room chair or your couch or your bed or wherever you happen to be, just listen to what I sing and then sing the same thing right afterwards. It's called Show Me the Way.
Oh, thanks, John. That's great. You know, we send some love out to our buddy Karl Anthony. We're missing him too. Oh my goodness. All right, so I have a reading for us today. This month I'm working with one of the books from Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, and it's called 365 Science of Mind. This is a really great, it's got a little reading for each day, and I'm taking part of our theme, which you'll hear about in a little while, from this book. And I just want to let you know, there are some of these available at the bookstore, and if you give Diane a call after service today, who's going to be there, you could she could send one to you. And it's such a great little reminder to keep us, I don't know about you, but our spiritual practices are so important right now, and something that's going to be easy and keep me grounded and centered every day is very helpful, is what I'm finding. And so this is a really great, these little daily books are really helpful with that. So this is 365 Science of Mind, a year of daily wisdom from Ernest Holmes. So our reading today comes from the month of April, which is renewal. So I invite you to just take a breath, close your eyes if you're comfortable, and just open to these words. From Proverbs 12:28. In the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway thereof there is no death. You and I should look across the new horizon of the greater possibility that resides within us and meet the living God and feel the embrace of his presence and come at last to know the infallibility of his power. From out of the great mind that is God, the way of life is made perfect and straight and immediate. It is made happy and whole and prosperous. We should awake to the living presence of the eternal God within each one of us and enter into a realization of a new peace and joy. As we come to surrender all littleness and all fear and doubt, that great river of life flowing from the mind of God will renew our vigor, remake our strength, ennoble our being, heal our bodies, and bring peace to our hearts. As our thoughts are cleared of all that is unlike him who created us, they become receptacles for the outpouring of all that is good, wonderful, and true. God's love always embraces us. His wisdom is always within us, and his joy is ours to share. Abundance is everywhere. And so just taking a breath in this center space here, let's connect to that great river of life that flows at the center of our being. That power and that presence that is always with us. Just breathing that into your experience here in this moment. Let us remember that we are never alone. That mind of God, that infinite wisdom, that knower of all things, is connected to the center of our being. And as we surrender all littleness, all limitation, all fear and worry, we open that divine channel to allow for the divine presence, again, to heal our bodies, to refresh our minds, and to renew our spirits. And so just allowing that to be the truth of this day, we step forward in faith. Taking another breath, coming on back. And so I think John's got a song for us. Do you?
I do.
Okay, great.
I do.
So I'm going to step away here.
So I did a Beatles song last week, and of course they're just always great to have, and so I'm going to do one today, and it feels especially appropriate. I know maybe we have a little overcast right now, but we finally kind of started spring this week, it seems. So this one is a little nod to that happy occasion. say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say it's alright. Little darling, the smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. 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 Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say it's alright. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. It's alright.
Oh, they love that one, John.
Happy Sunday, everyone.
Yay. And I can feel the sun coming, can't you? All right, so I'm going to start to move this back. That's a great one. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I love that. Okay. So here we are, another Sunday. Let me back. Okay, so I need to tell you how much I miss you. I was thinking about it this week, and it's been so strange. It's wonderful that we are doing the best we can with what we've got. And it's wonderful to see everybody online and to get the messages during the week. If you don't watch it on Sunday, sometimes people were watching the service later on and they were reaching out and letting me know. And I just am so touched by that. And I just want to let you know how, again, how odd this is. This is our 4th week. We've been doing this a month. And it just still feels so strange. I love that you're commenting on the Facebook and that we can see you and that we're able to still come together in consciousness. But just know that we miss you very much. And it still feels very strange to be doing this. And we cannot wait to get back together in whatever way is going to be safe and supportive and of all of us. So in this time of quarantine, I don't know about you, but I've been revisiting some of those things that are bringing me some comfort. You know, this is a very strange time in the world. It's a very strange time to be watching what's unfolding in front of us, and especially from our homes. But so one of the things that I've been doing is revisiting some of those things that I've loved. So I've shared with some of the people on our meditation nights that I've been watching my favorite movies. I shared that I watched Moonstruck and Working Girl and Say Anything and some of the things that I've loved from the past. We've been cooking a little bit more, so I'm cooking some of those things that bring not major comfort food, but things that we love. And I this week started to go back and read some of my favorite books. And one of them that I spent time with was very important to me. It's my favorite writer. Her name is Barbara Kingsolver. She's got some lovely fiction and nonfiction books. And I went back to my favorite collection of her essays, which is called High Tide in Tucson. And this essay in particular was very instrumental for me in my formation and how I see the world and my place in it. And she has a voice that was very clear to me and spoke to me. So I went back and read it this week. And there was a part of this story that touched me. So I'm going to start today by a little bit of this story. The essay High Tide in Tucson, it's the story of Buster. No, it's not my dog Buster, but it's Buster, who's a hermit crab, who stowed away in Barbara's suitcase and her collection of shells from a week in the Caribbean. And she returned back to Tucson and brought out a big group of shells to show her young daughter at the time. And they were both surprised when one of the shells popped, out of one of the shells popped this little hermit crab. And he popped around on the table, and they couldn't believe that he had, first of all, she didn't realize that there was a hermit crab in the shell, and second of all, that he had survived, and there they were faced with this little creature. And so what she says is, in our house, when something extraordinary shows up in your life in the middle of the night, you give it a name and make it the best home you can. So they named him Buster, and they made him a home there. So they built Buster a terrarium, and they learned how to care for him, and they began observing his interesting ways. They didn't know very much about hermit crabs. But soon they noticed that Buster was a little odd. There were moments when he would be frantic and manic and running around and cleaning up his space and playing in everything and making a mess of all things. And then there were other times when he was lethargic and he wouldn't move, he wouldn't eat. For days on end, he would just sit in the corner, and they thought he was dead. And they were trying to figure out what his cycle was. What's a hermit crab's biorhythm, basically? What's his cycle? And Barbara Kingsolver was a researcher, and she's a writer. And so she started to do some research, and she realized that he wasn't acting on the phases of the moon, like many animals are affected by the phases of the moon, and he wasn't acting on the seasons, and there wasn't any cycle that she could figure out as to what was really behind his manic depressiveness, let's call it. She had a manic depressive hermit crab. And but then she remembered from her graduate program that there was a researcher named F.A. Brown, who's basically the father of the biological clock. And he did a study back in 1954 tracking the intertidal cycles of oysters. And so this is what he did. He went to Connecticut, the shore of Connecticut, and he gathered a bunch of oysters up, and he took them back to his laboratory that was in a basement in Chicago. And they were going to study these oysters and their cycles. And so what happened was, over the first couple of weeks, he noticed that they stayed on the timing of the Connecticut shore, of the tide. So when the tide would be high, they would be very active. When the tide would go out, they would not be as active. But what they started to realize was that after that, they started to shift their times. Now, they were all still in unison, but it didn't coincide with the tides in Connecticut. And they did some checking, and it didn't coincide with the tides in California. And they realized that it didn't coincide with any tide anywhere around the globe. And they were struck by what possibly could be happening. But then they did some out-of-the-box thinking, and they did some calculations. And what they realized was that the oysters were responding to the tide as if Chicago was a coast. these oysters were so connected to life itself, to their surroundings, even though they were in a basement, a cement basement in Chicago. They realized what the tide would have been if they were on the coast there. And so Barbara remembered this study, and what she started to realize was that possibly Buster, this hermit crab, was operating on the tides as if they were in Tucson. And so she called the essay High Tide in Tucson. So this was the inspiration for me today, and my talk, which is finding your inner rhythm. So let's face it, we're stuck here in quarantine. And there's a lot of ideas about how we should be using this time. And I know, I've seen it, I've been on social media, and I've been talking to people, and people have been saying, I'm going to clean out my whole house, and I'm going to redo the garage, and I'm going to write my novel, and I'm going to get healthy, and I'm going to work out every day, and there's all these different things that we feel like we should be doing right now. And I'm also starting to hear, 4 weeks into this, that people are not cleaning out their basements, and they're not reorganizing the garage and the closets, and they're not Marie Kondoing every aspect of their homes, and they're not working out all the time, and they're not whatever it is that we think we should be doing. And I want to start with the fact that that's okay. It's okay to not be crazy productive, busy during this time. What's being called forth is an opportunity for us to discover ourselves in a deeper way. I think that what's happening here in the world, and part of us being pushed into a place where we are staying put, let's just say it that way, that where we're called to stay put here, that maybe it's not about the doingness, maybe it's about the beingness. And I'm hearing a lot of angst and upset from people who are saying, but I should be more productive, and I should be using my time better, and I don't have as much work here, so I should be doing something else. But I don't think that that's the truth. I think the truth here is that we are being called to deepen our relationship with ourselves and with the truth of our being, which I'm going to call God, in a deeper way. Let's face it, this is a global experience. This is something that's happening across the globe. And something on this scale is calling us to a deeper realization. We are being called into another level of understanding life itself. And it's being we're being pushed almost into living in the question of this, because we have no idea how it's going to unfold. And at this point, we know that we're in our homes for at least another month, at least. And it's getting very uncomfortable. As you've probably seen out in the world, there's a lot of upset across the country this week about these stay-at-home orders. But I want us to use this time productively. If something happens on this scale, of this magnitude, that means there's a message in it for us. There's a reason for it. And if we are just going about business as usual, if we are just allowing that drive within us to push ourselves forward and do, instead of allowing ourselves to sink into the truth of our beingness, we're missing the whole point. And I don't want to miss the point in this. I don't know about you. But I want us to be able to emerge from this experience in a new way, with a new way of seeing and being. And so maybe this is the time for you to rest. Maybe this is a time for you to just be. When do we ever allow ourselves to just be? Maybe this is a time for you to connect in a new way to yourself, and to your friends, and to your family, and to life itself. So I'm talking this today about finding your inner rhythm, allowing the shoulds to go, allowing all of that to-do list to just be, and get in touch with what's really going to feed your soul right now, what's really going to nurture you and support you. Maybe it is doing yoga every day. Maybe it is, of course we want to take care of ourselves and be as healthy and well as possible. So I'm not going to say go eat junk food all day and not move your body. That's not the truth, but that's not going to help anything. But maybe just allowing yourself to periods of rest. Maybe letting the project list go a little bit. Maybe that'll serve you and support you in a new way, in a different way. One of the other things that's become painfully clear in this time of quarantine is that the one thing is that we cannot escape ourselves. We are being confronted by who we are. We are being confronted by all of those things that we love about ourselves and all of those things that we judge ourselves harshly on. You know, we can no longer avoid dealing with us. We can no longer run and keep ourselves so over busy that we don't have time to process and deal with those things that we're not happy about from our past, or face the challenges we're having in our relationships. You know, those funny memes that are going around social media talking about, you know, can you get divorced on Zoom and who, you know, adopting kids out. I mean, they're jokes and all of that, but those jokes have a tinge of truth in them, because we are being confronted with the truths of our lives. And anything that has not been dealt with, anything that has not been faced, anything that's not been processed is up for us. And so I'm going to encourage us to gently, compassionately, with love, start to look at our issues. Start to be present with ourselves and see what wants to be released, what wants to be processed, what wants to be handled. So instead of indulging in our addictive behaviors, in our avoidance, in our over-scheduling, in our overindulgence in food and alcohol and all those things, you know, most of these things are being taken away from us, and what we're being faced with is ourselves. And I have said for many years that sometimes the most unsafe space for us is our own minds. And that's the thing that I would love to wave my magic wand and change for everyone, that you are safe within the confines of your own mind. And so it's going to take some self-acceptance, and it's going to take some compassion and some courage to face those things that we don't like about ourselves, that we are not comfortable about our lives. But here we are with this whole, you know, the whole world has pressed the pause button. The whole world has stopped for a moment. And we are given this opportunity to begin again. Something huge is trying to be born in this. Something big is trying to happen. You know, I've heard people for years praying for change. I want it to be different. We've wanted it to be different. You know, there was this whole idea of all of our systems need to be reinvented, revigorated, whatever that is. You know what? It's happening now. What if this experience is the bridge to what we want it to be? What we want the world to be like? I believe that that's possible. I believe that this is a chance, you know, even looking at all of those photos of the earth and what's happening as it's renewing itself. For a long time I thought that if we could just give the earth a chance, she could heal herself. You know what she is? She is healing herself right now as we are pulling back and calming down. Well, if the earth can heal herself from all of the pollution and all of the ravaging that's been happening, if that can start to happen, I think we can heal ourselves too. I think that we can, as the Bible tells us, be transformed by the renewing of our minds. As we move within and deepen our relationship to ourselves and to God, I know that anything is possible in terms of creating our life. And that's what I think this is about. Because when we move past all of those negative things we think about ourselves, all of those judgments we've held for years on ourselves, when we get past that harsh voice of the inner critic, what you find is the truth. And the truth is this: in any one moment in your life, you did the best you could do with the situation you were presented with the information that you were presented with. all the choices that you have made that have brought you to this experience, that have created your life in the way that it is, you've done the best you could do. And you know what? You're awake now. You're conscious now. You're aware now. And so what that means is you can choose from a higher place. You can create from a new way of knowing and being in the world. And when you do that, you create heaven on earth. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, as Jesus taught us. And that is the way that we do that, is to be conscious of our power and our presence, and that means deepening our relationship with God. So that being said, again, I was inspired by the Ernest Holmes 365 Science of Mind book this week. The theme for April is renewal. And what has come to me over and over again in my meditations this week is that we've got this season, because I can't say it's going to be a month, and I don't know how long this is going to be, but we're in this season of quarantine. And so what I'm saying for us is that this season of quarantine is going to be a season of renewal. That'll be our theme until we come back together again. Quicker than we think. But this is an opportunity for us. Because look, we've got a choice. We've always got a choice. We can sit and watch the news all day, and we can spin with the stress of the world, and we can connect to the anger of our leaders who are making choices that we don't agree with. We can move into that place of anger and worry and fear and upset and pain, and we can live in that. Or we can start to rise above it and see that something bigger is coming forward. We can disconnect from that fear and that worry of the collective and move into the quiet solitude of our own minds and what we know to be true. That there is something greater happening here. And that there is, because we know God, we know that presence that is life-giving, is supportive, is loving. Because we know that, we can know that whatever is coming forward for us has that spirit of goodness in it. We've got a clear choice. And we could go either way with this. And after 4 or 5 weeks, I have to tell you, it's getting harder to hold on to that knowing of something greater when we are not daily doing our work, when we are not being conscious of connecting, when we are not allowing ourselves to turn off that outside noise and connect to that which is going to refresh our souls and serve us. And so you know what? Maybe your mother's homemade mac and cheese recipe is going to connect you to the goodness of life. Maybe the walk outside, taking a break from your work day in your own home office, which may be your bedroom, in the middle of the day, is going to serve you and support you. Maybe turning all of your electronics off and playing Monopoly with your kids is going to serve and support you and remember what's really true. Life, the goodness of life, and the love of God is the most true thing that there is. And so as we move into this season of renewal and we start by finding our inner rhythm, it's going to take some courage to be present with ourselves. It's going to take some courage to move inside and begin by accepting who we are and where we are. We have an opportunity to rediscover ourselves and take a look at ourselves from a new perspective. It's like taking inventory. And again, we do this with a sense of gentleness. We do this with a sense of peace. There's nothing standing in our way right now except for ourselves. And so if we can be brave enough to allow for all of those things that we judge ourselves so harshly, to be present with them, what we can do is move through the pain, release those negative feelings and judgments on what I should have done and how I should have handled whatever that is. And to move into our authentic heart with the intention of doing good, of being a presence of love, of being a channel of light to those around us, everybody that we are in relationship with. And maybe doing our forgiveness work. our forgiveness work for ourselves, forgiveness work for those who we think have harmed us, but especially creating this divine sacred sanctuary within yourself. The meditation that I did this morning about being in the present moment, when we are in the present moment, everything is okay. If we can keep ourselves operating in the present, if you go too far to the future, things just spin out of control because we have no idea about what's happening. And when we live and when something's up for you, when you think you did something wrong and you just chew on it and you chew on it and it goes over and over again in your mind, when you live in that energy of the past, it holds you back so much that you can't use your creative energy to create what's next. Our goal is to be clear and free and present so that right now we can plant the seeds of the world we want to see and the life we want to live. We can't control what's happening in the world. We don't know what's going to unfold. We don't know how this is going to turn out. So what that means is that we have to pull ourselves back to this moment and put our attention on what it is that we can work on. And what we can work on is ourselves. We can work on our minds and our hearts. We can care for our bodies, which is so important in this time of coronavirus for us to keep our immunity up. And one of the things that feeds our immunity and strengthens it is joy and it's love and it's appreciation and it's gratitude. Joy, love, appreciation, and gratitude. Those are the things that are going to allow us to see through the difficulty and the pain. Now, I'm not saying that we should be Pollyanna and pretend that nothing's happening. But how can we take what we're presented with and move in a constructive energy forward? Maybe it is making masks to donate to nursing homes. Maybe it is sending thank you cards to health workers at a hospital across the country. Maybe it is calling a friend that you haven't talked to in 20 years. Maybe it is writing a card to someone who you think might be lonely because they are stuck alone in their house with no one else around them. But we can be constructive, not only in the world, but with ourselves. And when we click into that energy, that's creative. That brings more light, more energy, more of the goodness of life forward. And so instead of living in that dark and living in that world of I should be doing this and pretending to be something that we're not and all of that, let's be authentically ourselves and share the truth of who we are so that we can step forward completely in a new way. The last thing I would want is for us to end this time of quarantine and come out of it not having taken advantage of the opportunity to do the work on ourselves. Not taking the advantage of the time that we've been given to rest and rejuvenate, to renew our minds, to renew our bodies, to renew our lives. Look, it's not going to be business as usual. But we have an opportunity to create what it's going to be like. So the idea is let's spiral up in consciousness and create from a higher place. Let's take the lessons of this time, doing more with less, traveling around less, not being out and about constantly, consolidating that which we need, and create from a higher place of awareness and consciousness. And in that way, we don't go back to the life that we were living that everybody wanted change in. I think it's funny that I heard over and over again for the last couple of years, we want change, I want this to be different, it needs to be different. And now it's different and everyone's saying, I want it to be the same, I want it to be the same. We need to be honest with where we are and what's possible. We have been presented with this unique, historic experience, and there's a lot we can do with it. We can move forward in a new way. I've been thinking about one of my favorite stories of the wise Zen master. People from far and wide came to see this Zen master for counsel and wisdom. And many would come and ask him to teach them about enlightenment and the way of Zen, and he would rarely turn anyone away. One day, a very important man came who commanded respect and obedience. And he came to see the Zen master. And he said, I've come today for you to teach me about Zen. Open my mind to enlightenment. And the tone of his voice was of one who was used to getting his way in things. The Zen master smiled at him and said that they should discuss it over a cup of tea. When the tea was served, the master poured his visitor a cup. He poured, and he poured, and he poured, and the tea rose to the rim of the cup and began to spill over. And finally into the teacup, over into the saucer, and over onto the table. And finally the visitor shouted, Enough! You're spilling the tea all over! Can't you see the cup is full? And the master stopped pouring, and he smiled at his guest, and he said, You are like this teacup, so full that nothing more can be added. Come back to me when the cup is empty. Come back to me with an empty mind, and I will teach you of Zen. And it reminds me, because we get so full of our own ideas about everything that there isn't room for discovery. And even about ourselves. We get so filled with the idea of who we are. We've lived these long lives. We've formulated our personalities. We've settled into who we are. But there's still wonders of yourself to be discovered. But we need to move into that beginner's mind concept. I was also moved by Alvin Toffler's quote. Again, I shared this a little while back, but he said that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I share that because I think that this is a time of us unlearning and relearning about who we are, about letting go of those harsh judgments that we hold about ourselves, finding a way to compassionately accept who we are, accept the life we've lived to get us to this moment, and make some conscious decisions about who we want to be and where we want to go next. And we've been given this space and this time to be able to do that. If we can truly and deeply realize that we've done the best that we could do in any one moment, all of that harsh negativity starts to lessen and fade away. And when we can move into that space of knowing the truth of who we are, then that deep connection to the presence of God opens and we deepen our relationship. And so in this period of time, I think of Buster, the little hermit crab, who was a native of the Caribbean living in a desert in Arizona. It feels like that, right? It feels like quarantine is like we've been swept out of our life and plopped into a new place. We have to move with our own inner rhythm. We need to allow for what's wanting to be revealed through us to come forth easily and effortlessly. We have to stop fighting ourselves and allow for that which we need, that which we are called to do, that which we are called to be, to come forward without judging it, without putting all the shoulds on it. Stop shoulding all over yourself, right? That's what we say all the time. When you hear, I should be, that's the red flag. That's the time to wake up and say, and ask the different question, what does my heart need today? What does my soul need today? What does my body need today? And if it's rest, then rest. If it's movement, then move. If it's nurturing foods, then eat them. I had a conversation this week with a friend who was saying that if I read one, she shared with me, if I read one more spiritual book, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I encouraged her to read a racy novel. She was like, what a great minister you are. You tell me to read that? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because your soul needs the full experience of life. And so whatever it is that's really going to serve you and support your wholeness, your well-being, I encourage you to be honest with yourself and allow it to come forward. We need to come to terms with who we are. And we've been gifted this amazing opportunity to do this. A few years back, I was at a extended family reunion. And I walked by a couple having a conversation. And they're fundamentalist Christians, and they were talking about how it's too bad. I heard somebody saying, it's too bad that there aren't miracles anymore like there used to be in the Bible. That God just doesn't show up as miracles like the stories in the Bible. It just doesn't happen anymore. If that happened, I think things would be different. And I remember in that moment thinking that I didn't agree with it. But now I really don't agree with that. Because right now, this is a miracle from God. This is an experience that is calling us to a new way of life on such a huge scale. We can't see anything but the hand of God in this. And if we can see the hand of God in this experience, even amongst the pain and the difficulty, the death and the illness, what I know is that we are moving to a higher level of being. That we are being handed an opportunity to participate with the divine life to create something new. But we don't create from the outside in. We create from the inside out. And so my best wish for you this week is that you find that safe, sacred sanctuary within your heart. That you allow your own inner rhythm to reveal itself to you. And make your choices of how you spend your time and your energy and your creative force, planting the seeds for what you want to see later, each and every day, easily, effortlessly, with love and with compassion. Because I want you to love you the way I love you. And I absolutely love you. Peace and blessings. Okay.
All right, everybody give that one a hand. They were doing it all throughout.
Really?
And exactly what they need to hear. That's several people commented on that, which is.
Well, thanks everybody.
Yes. Yeah. When I was a boy, each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He could read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, finding where there isn't one. Holy water was rare at best, and barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath. I'm swimming in a sea of it. Used to be the world out there, heaven's second rate hand me down. Now walking with the reverend there, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. not a testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament, tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me wanna bow my head, and I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be the world after there, heaven second rate letting me down. Now walking with the Reverend Tear, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
So great. Oh, beautiful, John. Thank you. Oops. Sorry about that. I did a little too quick. Okay.
That's all right. I had some fun moments during your talk.
I
for
heard.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I was moving around a little bit too much today, I think, huh? Is that the... that was the general idea here.
It happens. We're working on it. I learned something today, though, which is if you're trying to focus, don't double tap the screen because that changes it around so it's facing you.
Oh, really?
So they got
you?
They got a piece of my mug for about 5 seconds until I realized, oh boy, that's a close-up.
Thank you for singing that. That's one of our favorite songs.
Of course.
We love it. We love it.
It seems to fit so well. We could almost do it every Sunday.
We almost could.
We're not going to,
No.
but we could.
But we could. And now it's on video. So.
Yes.
All right. So this is a time of the service when I'm going to remind you about the importance of giving. So I'll admit the church is a little bit tighter than we would like. We are trying really hard to pay all of our bills on time and make sure, as I've shared before, my intention is to make sure our beloved staff is continued to be paid in this period of time. But our giving has been down. I'll be honest, it's been down. And so I'm coming to you with a heart full of gratitude for everyone who has continued to give and support this spiritual community. And I'm going to ask you to lean in if possible. I realize that a number of people their work situations have changed and it's a really difficult time. So I understand that. And I just want to let you know that any offering is helpful. Any amount will support our community. We are trying to stay alive during this so that we know we can see the promised land. We've changed a number of situations for the center. We can see what's coming down the pike. We just have to get there. And so it's going to take a little bit, and it's going to take all of us coming together to do that. So there are a number of ways that you could do. You could share your offering with us. You could go to our website, CSLTV.org. There's a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal. That goes directly to us. Our administrator, Diane Key, shared with me this week that she's at the church right now, and she loves being on the phone and chatting with you if you want to call her and say good morning, and she could swipe your credit card for you, or she could do your credit card for you. Or you could buy a book. You could buy one of the Signs of Mind 365 books if you'd like. And you could also snail mail your offering in. We are checking mail too. So there are a number of ways for you to be able to do that. We really are grateful for your support, and we really encourage you to lean in and help in this time, so that we can make sure that CSLTV has a place to come back to when this is all done, because we can't wait for that. We cannot wait to be back in the presence with you. We cannot wait. So I'm going to invite you to take your offering, place it upon your heart, in your mind, or your computer, and let's just know the blessings of the abundance of life that are ours, that no matter what's happening, I know that each of us is sourced and supported from on high, that the infinite creative power of God moves to us, through us, and out into our experience of life, and this offering moves to support this light in our valley and throughout our social media, the light that is CSLTV, and bringing peace and inspiration and love to so many people. And we are so grateful that we come together to support the growth of this light and this message in this world at this time. And so we bless it, we give thanks for it, and allow it to be. And so it is. And so let's say our little affirmation together.
Yes.
Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. So I have some announcements for you, just some reminders. First of all, our youth, we've been trying to meet our youth group, the young ones, with our director Juliana on Sundays at 11:30, and we're going to take a pause on that. That wasn't working the way that we wanted it to work through Zoom for the littles. And so what I want you to know is this: if you are home with your children, and we know what that's like, I'm gonna encourage you to reach out to Juliana, and we can put her contact information on our page. I think she's there. If not, I'll make sure she is. And she's available to you and to the kids to do some one-on-one work. She's a great. She's one of the greatest directors, and she's really wanting to connect with the kids in a real one-on-one level. So she can FaceTime with them. She can talk to them on the phone. She can be present, and also with you as a family too. So if there's something going on that you could use just a little bit of extra support, our youth director Juliana Roby would be a great person to support you with. Our teens have been meeting at 11 a.m. every Sunday on Zoom. They're having some fun there, and you can contact our director Ted Blake directly to get that Zoom link. And so the teens, if you have a teen in your life who's kind of missing school and may not have been participating in our teen group, but maybe could use some peer support, I really encourage you to reach out. Our group is growing. The kids are the ones who are basically bred on technology, so our group is actually growing through the technology. So I invite you to invite your teens in your life to join us. So our book study's going on Wednesday mornings with Pam Migliosi. The men's ministry meets every Wednesday morning with Reverend Michael Summers at 9 o'clock. And the Sisters in Spirit group decided that they're going to meet every week on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock. And again, that's Pam Migliosi to contact and connect with. Our Spiritual Connection at 7 series is going strong. So if you're a morning person, come and meditate with us at 7 a.m. If you're not a morning person, come and meditate with me at 7 p.m. And the group that's coming together. It's been really sweet and lovely on a daily basis to connect with people from the community. And it's a really quick, simple 20-minute spiritual practice together and a very quick check-in. And then on Wednesday nights, the Spiritual Connection at 7 is me, and I'm leading a longer dialogue. We all check in. If anybody's got questions or wants to do some conversation, I really encourage that. And then we do some spiritual practice together. So it's about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. But whatever you can attend, we love that. That's on Wednesday nights. And then tomorrow night is the last time that you'll be able to join the online grief support group with our chaplain and practitioner, Suzanne Ward. And so that's happening at 5 o'clock on Mondays. It started last week, and it's open for the first 2 weeks. So tomorrow is the last time you can join it. And, you know, as we've talked about, this time is bringing up a lot of grief for a lot of different reasons. And I strongly encourage, if you've experienced loss or a major change in your life, if you're struggling right now, I really encourage you to join that group. It's a really powerful opportunity to gain support and to start to walk through the challenges of your life. So Suzanne Ward is leading that. We're so grateful for that. I think that's all I got for now. We've got some new things coming. Dr. Victoria is going to do some online classes. We're going to release those this week. I'm going to start a class. I'm going to release that information this week. It's going to be starting in the next couple of weeks. Now that we know that this is going to be going on for a little bit longer, we're going to get a couple of more classes in the schedule. And I'm hoping for some more fun events too. We are kicking around the idea, and I'm just putting this out there if anybody's got some creative juices flowing that wants to participate with us. But we're kicking around an idea of a family fun social hour on Zoom for us. Maybe we do a family scavenger hunt in your house, or I was thinking of a lip sync contest or something that we could do that would be social and fun and get us all together. I'm hoping for a concert, but we'll see if we maybe can talk somebody into doing a concert. I don't know.
Catherine's doing a concert.
It wouldn't be me, but we'll see. Don't mean to put the pressure on you, but you know. Okay, so with that, we're gonna go into a time of prayer, and also I want to just remind you that our practitioners are available for you. All of their contact information is up on our website, and they would be glad to pray with you. We know that it takes a little extra to put a prayer request in. You could write one in the chat to the Center for Spiritual Living. You could, in our chat on Facebook, you could email me at Rev Katherine at CSLTV.org. Our prayer requests go out to all the practitioners. If you are struggling, if you are having a hard time with any of this, please reach out and allow us to pray for you and to pray with you. It would be, it's our honor to do that, and we want to surround you in light. And so, but let's come together in consciousness now. Just taking another breath into that center and connecting to that sweet space of stillness within. This is the place where I connect with the Infinite One, that divine creator of all life, that divine creator of me and all that is. I call God. That spirit moves and breathes itself into being in all, as all, through all things, everywhere. And I simply know it is here connecting each of us from afar at the heart level. We are unified in this oneness of being, in this goodness of life, in this love, in this spirit. And so I speak my word on this day for each and every one of us, knowing that each surrenders any sense of limitation, any harsh judgment, any old way of seeing themselves, that we surrender it and let it go. Allowing for that compassionate, loving presence of God to bring comfort and peace in knowing that each and every step of our lives, we've done the best we could do. And now from this place of awakened presence, we step forth free, full, empowered, enlightened in the light and the love of the one that has brought us forth. And so I know for each person that we are sourced and supported from on high, that we have all that we need and more. There is more than enough. There is more than enough opportunity and possibility. There is more than enough inspiration and creativity. There is more than enough peace and abundance to allow for this life to unfold in the grace of God. And so I claim this spirit, I claim this truth, I claim this love, and this connection that keeps us tied together at the heart, knowing that it serves, it supports, it nurtures, and it renews our soul and refreshes our lives. And so as we step fully into this season of renewal, we go with arms wide open, welcoming the essence and the presence of spring. And as nature refreshes itself all around us, we refresh ourselves and renew ourselves from the inside out and allow the transformation to happen with ease and with grace and the power of God. And so with my heart filled with gratitude to see this, to know it, and to claim it for each and every one of us, I give great thanks and surrender my word, knowing all is well. And so it is. Amen.
All right, everybody, let's release it. There was a time in my life when I had to do it all myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient, and didn't know the love of God was at hand. Now I can say that if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you got to let it go, let it all go. And this is what you have to say: I release and I let go, let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only for God. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only for God.
So my last thing today is I forgot. I just want to wish a happy Easter to all of my Greek Orthodox friends and family. Christos Aneste, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Easter. And our benediction for today is, I step forth, allowing for the divine life to renew me. And so it is. Love
So
you
it
all. Have a wonderful Sunday. Have a great week. We'll see you on Zoom this week. Mwah, 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 mwah.